All right. Looks like we're getting on here. Hope you guys are doing good today. Um, this is kind of an impromptu live stream because I had a lot of folks ask me about it here in the last since kickoff. Really, hadn't planned on doing this because I'm trying to keep the normal Q&A stream on Monday nights after we know a little bit more. But I thought, sure, hey, sometime I'm able to do it. Why not? So thought we'd jump on here and I'll give you my thoughts. It won't be a big Q&A thing. We'll save that for tomorrow night after we know a little bit more. So, but go ahead and make comments and talk amongst yourselves. And I'll just go through what I noticed and what I think coming back. So long and short, thought it was a good day for the organization. Obviously, what we found out since the game concluded, and honestly, I didn't get to see the end of the game. I don't know how many of you did if you weren't there. So, hey, folks, I see all your names coming in. Big Test. This was one of your ideas, so thanks for it. It won't be super long, but we'll get something done here. And I don't know I'll be able to do this every week, but I will try whenever I can, and we'll still keep the Monday night Q&A as the normal thing. So, good day for the organization. The injuries are the concern, right? What I saw from Rick Burkholder on Tyreek Hill is that he is there in the hospital because of what is the clavicular joint. As your clavicle comes into your sternum, tore or stretched or possibly some kind of injury to that area. And the concern is when you break the ligaments here that attach the clavicle to the sternum, it can move backwards. In car wrecks and things like that, when there's extreme violence of force, you can even get punctured lungs from your own clavicle and that kind of thing. So I'm sure that's like the worst case scenario that they were worried about, but they were going into it. So trying to be cautious, I'm sure, and make sure that the player is okay, not just on the field, but for himself. I think that's going to work itself out. I think what they showed you today is that they don't have to have him every down all the time. I, for one, and I showed you in the pregame, in the game plan, that Travis Kelce was going to have the matchup. Clearly, Travis had a couple of big catches. I would have liked to seen them feed him a little bit more. But when Hill went out, I think they were able to bracket him. I'm going to look at the all-22 and give you guys some breakdown here later in the week. But Myles Jack, that matchup with Travis Kelce was one that he does not want to see again. I think you all get the reason why. Myles Jack kind of lost his mind there for a bit. And I think there's going to be some penalties there as that comes down the line. And somebody just threw out a super chat. I did want to remind everybody, super chat's open. If you want to throw something out there, make sure you ask a question. If you do, I'll try to answer the folks that do the super chat. This isn't going to be a Q&A, though. I just want to keep everybody's expectations down because I don't have the biggest amount of time. I got a house full of people, as I do every Sunday around the satellite. So that's the way that goes. But I think Tyreek's going to be all right eventually. I think what they showed is that the Myles Jack meltdown shows you just how frustrating it can be to play this offense, especially when you lose your number one wide receiver. And Sammy Watkins takes it to the house repeatedly and well. I think that's something that is underwhelming for a lot of teams, and certainly if they don't do their film work enough. I thought Sammy looked really, really good in terms of his acceleration. Those small minor cuts that he made that threw out some tacklers, I thought that was great. He looked fluid. He looked accelerative. He looked fast, even in his top gear, running away from DBs. So I think that's great. So that said, I wish they had targeted Hardman. He got one target, and that was when he dropped. He did, as Chris just said, and I had the headset on and all that stuff because we just recorded the podcast, everyone. So go grab the Locked On Chiefs podcast. Chris and I go through it, and he's got a lot of good points as well. And one of them was that Hardman fell on that ball and was aware of what was going on, even if it had been called. So that was the goal there. And I thought that was a good sign. But next week with Hill out, definitely Hardman's got to get into the offense more. They've got to get him in some of those roles. And I'm really looking forward to that. I didn't see anything really negative from Hardman other than that drop, but hey, that is what it is. I thought the offense continued to churn. Kelce, that kind of thing. And Brian Gooch, thanks for your donation there on the super chat. Tyreek to IR to keep him from rushing back. It's a good concept. I don't think they want to risk that, though. This could be anywhere from 2 weeks to 6 weeks. If you go on IR, you can't come back to like week 8. I just don't think they're going to go there. we'll see what happens. It's really early in the process. We got to see inflammation and what the tests come back with here in the next 36 hours. So we're just going to take our time for a little bit and just kind of wait on that. And I'll have more for you in midweek when we know those things. Now, the All-22 comes out Tuesday. I usually review it Tuesday night and try to record for Wednesday. We'll see if I can actually pull that off. It's all about timing this year. They've changed some of the things on Game Pass for the All-22, so I may be changing some of the things that I'm doing, at least the time frame. So that said, other standouts today, really impressed with LaShawn McCoy. I told you that I didn't think he was going to be a signing that they had to go out and get, but he adds something. And mostly what I thought that he was bringing was his ability to plant and go, his cuts. He's still very, what I call the shady shake that we used to call it back in the, he's still got that. But what I saw today, I wasn't expecting, was that he can still accelerate, and he does have that gear that's still close to his top gear. I'm very happy for him. That's an exciting thing. He actually got less touches than Damian Williams did, but did more with them. So that tells you exactly where he's at. And before I go any farther, I should mention I blew up some T-shirts for everybody. Some welcome back, because this game in particular is going to get a whole lot of bandwagon fans coming on to Kansas City. I've got a couple of shirts in the store, the RGR store at Teespring, that are specific for you guys to be able to differentiate yourself from fair weather fans or people new to the kingdom. So check those out. It goes to a good cause. It helps us out on the channel, and there's all kinds of good stuff. But that said, the bandwagon exists because of how they play. Mahomes showed a lot of gumption there, a lot of resolve. I almost would have preferred that he didn't, just because you don't want to take that risk with his foot. It looks like it is an ankle sprain, according to Andy Reid in the postgame. I think that's probably where they'll leave it, even if it's not. But the fact that he played out, I don't think it's too difficult. I don't think it's too costly for him. A lot of rehab, a lot of effort into try to get him back to full speed. The Raiders, their pass rush it could be decent. I don't know. Tell me what Cleveland Farrell shows on Monday night, and we'll figure it out. You know what I mean? There's still an unknown quantity at this point, so we'll just try to go with it. Yeah, I just don't know. So you want to protect him. McCoy, Damian, comfortable with that. I thought, Darwin got a touch or two. I'll have to check the actual stats here. But good for him just to get a little sprinkled in. I thought that was great. Robinson made a couple of plays. One great block on one of the Watkins touchdowns. I thought he let himself get exposed when he got in that argument with Jack. I think Jack swung on him first, but it looked to me like he took a swing, and I'm surprised he didn't get penalized. Maybe I missaw it, but just want to see more smart play out of him. We'll continue that. Nice appearance by Sherman. Almost got into the end zone. I was rooting for him. Made a nice play, so more power to him for that. I think that's important. We're going to see as it goes on who else is going to step up. Let's see. You guys, what else you got? Yeah, and I'll be back tomorrow night. We'll go through all the questions, so just hold those for tonight. But Dylan Truckman, thanks for your donation. Appreciate that. If Sammy keeps playing like this, how can we not keep him for a third year plus? That's a problem. We're gonna have to work numbers. My guess is if he keeps playing like this, they're gonna extend him, reducing his cap number and keeping him on the roster. I think that's the best case scenario for everyone, to tell you the truth. So good point, Dylan. I appreciate that. On the defensive side, Frank Clark made his presence known late in the game. I didn't get to see it because of the satellite feed. I don't know if you guys did too. I'm not sure. I heard some people in the Kansas City market got to see the game, and some didn't. I don't know how that's possible. If there was a fire in the CBS truck, so I don't know how that happened. But you guys tell me if any of you saw it, because I did not. But good for Frank. I thought Agba looked like quicker than I expected him to. Okafor, I think you saw Okafor making some of those plays I was talking about, where he's not necessarily the big pass rush guru, but he can make a couple of different plays. He can play in coverage. I think he's going to get his hands on some interceptions this year, and I think he's going to be a guy that cleans up a lot of pressure that you saw from Jones and Clark, and how much attention they were getting. That's going to continue. You have to give those guys attention, or they're just going to hurt you all day long. At the linebacker level, I was surprised about Reggie Ragland before the game even started to be inactive. That tells me one of two things. Either they were not concerned about Leonard Fournette, and they did play good run defense. So the defensive line took some of that up. So that's a good point. But they clearly weren't worried about him as much, and they preferred to have Lee in a position to play more nickel, to play more coverage. And that's Reggie's, thorn. It is what it is. It also tells me that there's a possibility that Reggie might be involved in a coming trade because I think they have to have a coming trade. What you saw from the cornerback position really did leave some things to be desired. There was miscommunication, so I can't put it all on the corners. I thought, Fuller is a vet. He got his hand in there, and he got beat, but was able to, keep a hand on him enough to stay with him. Just had trouble locating the ball, whereas Chark got it. It was a good play by the wide receiver. It's a perfect ball by Foles. But I would have liked to seen Fuller do something a little bit more. He made some other plays, so it's kind of an up and down day for him. It looked to me like there were a couple of coverages that Travarius Ward blew when he was in zone. And like I said, he's comfortable in man. The zone thing's going to be a problem. They got to get that stuff worked out. And I think Tyrann Mathieu actually tweeted it out after the game that they have things to work on. They have to get some of this figured. And I think they will. I don't think it's going to be too terrible. So that said, we'll see what they come back with if they make any alignments. 3 more weeks till Mo Claiborne. Possible trade coming down. So, it's going to be an Achilles heel. But here's the point. If they can keep teams to around 20 points, this offense should be able to crush everyone. It shouldn't be an issue. And that said, I am very much happy with the way that they defended the run because I think that takes away that obstacle. And that's something that eats clock, that takes opportunity away from you down the line. If teams are going to score fast because of a bad play by a cornerback or a blown coverage, you get the ball back and you give Mahomes a chance right away. It's that thawing run game where they couldn't stop anyone that eats up game clock where you don't have a chance to come back. So I think of the two evils, I think they're in better shape now than they were last season. Let's see. Players of the game. I thought Damian Wilson really is playing above what they're paying him or what we've been touted to pay him. I think he's a guy that played well today. Wiley had a late flag, but I thought Wiley looked pretty good in dealing with some of that pass rush. I thought Reader actually looked pretty good. Happy with him. Blake Bell moved fine. It is what it is. I don't think you have to rely on Blake Bell, at least not yet. So not too bad, but I think overall, a couple of players that stood out in a positive way beyond those guys. I thought Noddy was really pushing that, was really solid in the run game, and that set up the rest of the defense. I want to see a little bit more from Frank. I thought he had a decent start, but they didn't get enough pressure. He and Jones in particular were close a lot, but they didn't quite get there. And that's the first time. It's the first game in this defense with this scheme and these calls and knowing what you're doing and what the other guys are doing and how that affects you. So I'm not worried about it. I think it's going to be fine. But I want to see a little bit more. I want to see them become dominant forces. Chris Jones, I think, is right on the edge, and I think you guys all know that. Big Chief Sean, how are you, buddy? And yeah, a little bit worried, and I'm just going to pick at the little things. The decision to play Lee and not play Ragland, I think it did show up in the run game. I think Lee got hung up on some blocks. I'm looking at my notes here. If I look down at the computer real quick, sorry guys, that Lee did get hung up a little bit. But that happens. He's a lighter guy. He is a coverage guy, so you can't really expect him to do the same. But there are some downs where they missed Reggie Ragland. I would have kept him active myself, but that's me. I thought the linebackers in general flowed pretty well. I thought Tyrann Mathieu got a little over anxious. He got a little bit concerned about things, so he tried to cover it up with his own play, and I think that put him out of position a couple of times. But I will tell you this, the guy that stood out to me the most on defense was the fact that he didn't stand out at all in a negative way. I think Juan Thornhill started for a reason. I told you guys from day one he was going to start. He's going to be a playmaker. I thought he was really solid today. A couple of nice, really open field tackles that worked well. I think he will be a playmaker eventually. He didn't really do a whole lot there. He was in on one of the plays, but I don't think it was him that caused it. He will eventually. He will produce plays. I'm not worried about that. And I thought for a rookie starting against guys like Westbrook and Chark who were on, I was pretty happy with his play, and I think he's going to be a solid safety back there, a guy that can grow into a role where he's a leader as well. That said, I feel bad for Nick Foles. I like the guy. I liked him while he was here. I like him now. It's a rough thing. He will be a much longer recovery than Tyreek Hill. I feel good for Minshew. Man, I don't know of a player that started a better way to have to come in and grab that. And they do have a starter. I don't think they need to go look for another quarterback. Happy for him. For a guy coming out of the air raid, out of Wazoo, good for him. He may be able to help them down the line. He may be able to carry them through. Because as soon as Foles went down, you started to have panic, right? If you're a Jags fan, because so much money into him, he's the guy that they think. Okay, I think Minshew's gonna help them through. So good for him. And I gotta say, I was really happy for Chris Conley. You saw from Chris Conley today what he could have been 2 years ago, but because of Tyreek Hill, because of Sammy Watkins, being behind other guys and just not getting that kind of play and trust from Alex in particular, but a little bit from Mahomes too. It's no coincidence that this was his career best, and last season with Mahomes was his career best. So that's it. I'm happy for him. We'll see what the prognosis is for all these injuries. I don't think it's going to be earth-shattering, but we'll see what happens. Other than that, I think overall it's a really good step forward. They have the Raiders. They have the Ravens coming. The Ravens played a heck of a game today. My boy, I told you about Hollywood Brown in the offseason during the draft process. He is incredible. And yes, it was just the Dolphins, but that's something important. He will be able to build on that. So keep an eye on those guys. Enjoy the rest of your night in Sunday Night Football, and I'll be back. We'll try to do the Q&A session tomorrow a little bit earlier, about an hour earlier, so that we don't overlap on Monday Night Football, but that's the plan. Thanks for all you guys jumping on here, 300 folks after the game, so I appreciate that. And get your questions ready for tomorrow night. We'll do the normal Q&A thing then. Enjoy the rest of the games tonight, and I'll talk to you later. Have a good one.